Hello there, this is Jerry Norton, the author of How to Make Money in Real Estate, and I want to welcome you to this special video and audio training called Overcoming Fear and Flipping Houses with Confidence. And to start out, I want to share a quick story. Recently, my wife and I, we went out to dinner with some old friends that we hadn't seen since we were first married, and at the time I was working in construction and we were barely getting by. And these friends were really curious as to how I went from construction worker to millionaire real estate investor. And so I tried to explain to them that I started out flipping junker houses in Detroit, and over the years I just kept at it and progressing, and now I do these multi-million-dollar deals and I have projects all over the country. And I tried to explain that I've just been persistent, which is true. And my wife, she was just listening patiently, and when I was all done, she politely said, "Now do you want to know the real reason he's successful?" And they were like, "Okay." And so then she says, "He doesn't let fear or failure ever stop him." And so I've thought a lot about that, and the reality is that statement is partially true, because I still have fear just like everyone else, but I try not to let it stop me from taking action and moving forward. So I love the quote, "It's not about being fearless, it's about acting in spite of fear." Now, the opposite of fear is courage. And Ambrose Redmoon said, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear." And the reality is we don't change until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of the change, right? So here's the thing. Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. So why do we have this fear? Why is it so debilitating? I mean, if you think about it, built into our evolutionary, biology is this fight or flight mechanism. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors experienced fear in a very real sense. Today, though, we don't have a saber-toothed tiger, chasing us, and we don't experience that fear of getting eaten, but we still have that same fight or flight mechanism, built into us. So what I want to attempt to do here is illustrate on this video and audio training is that for the most part, our fears we have, they're not actually real, but rather an illusion. And, I want to talk about what we can do to overcome those fears and really flip houses with confidence, or, do really anything else for that matter. So why is fear so detrimental to our success? Here's why. Fear and courage cannot exist within us at the same time, right? In other words, we can't be fearful and courageous at the same time. And when fear controls us, it prevents us from taking action. It holds us back. It stops us from progressing. It literally paralyzes us. And over the years, as I've worked with thousands of real estate entrepreneurs, I've noticed that the biggest thing that prevents a lot of new investors from being successful is their own perceived fears. And these fears can be lumped into really four main categories. So I want to take a minute here and list these out on the board. So the first one here comes from a lack of knowledge. So if I write that up on the board here, lack of knowledge or understanding. So we have this lack of knowledge, that's the first one. So we'll put one right here. The second one is a lack of support. We'll talk about that. So lack of support. The third one, is a fear of loss. So we have this fear of loss, and we'll talk about that. And then the fourth one, that's the most common, is a fear of one's own abilities. Okay, a fear of one's own abilities. So what I'd like to do here is talk about this for a minute and go into some detail here about these four fears that most people experience. And really what I hope to do is help you overcome that fear and flip houses with confidence. That's what we're talking about real estate here. And so, fear stands for, the acronym of fear stands for false evidence appearing real. Right? And once we understand that our fears are not real and just an illusion, we can reorient our mindset and no longer be stopped by fear. So let's talk about the first fear, which is this lack of knowledge. The more you understand how something works, the more confidence you have to then do it. So the most common fears that people have when it comes to flipping houses are the following: not knowing where to find deals, not knowing how to properly analyze deals, not knowing how to fill out the paperwork and make offers, and not knowing how to flip those houses for a profit. Now, this fear of not knowing how to flip houses is actually the easiest to overcome, because I've developed a complete step-by-step system for finding, analyzing, offering, and flipping houses to cash buyers for $3,000 to $10,000. It's a complete deal management system that we call Flipster, and it includes software for finding deals, deal analyzer calculators, and tons of tools for doing each and every aspect of the business, including detailed training. So whether you're working on your first deal or your 100th deal, it's the most state-of-the-art system for flipping houses on the planet. And it's every piece of the puzzle and a plan to implement it as well. So you can actually check this out by going to resultsnow.com. Resultsnow.com. So, other fears associated with this lack of knowledge here that we're talking about here is a lot of people, they believe that there's no deals in my market. That's one. I don't have any special licenses is another common one I hear. I don't have time is a big one. I don't have any money or credit to fund deals. Those are some other big ones. And so the reality is there are deals in every market, and I actually show you how to do deals virtually in any market you want, which is really cool. So for example, 2 of my elite mentoring students live in LA and they do deals in Atlanta. So, you can do this anywhere. As far as licensing, you don't need a real estate license or any other license to flip houses. And when it comes to time, the good news is you can get started flipping houses part-time or in your spare time. It doesn't need to be a full-time thing. And, as far as money, this is a really big one. Most people think when it comes to real estate, you have to have a lot of money. But really, one of the best strategies, especially when getting started, is wholesaling. Now, wholesaling is where you flip your contract to another investor who will then step in and buy the property and pay you a finder fee of $3,000 to $10,000. Now, if you do this strategy the way I teach, you don't need any money or credit because you're not the one buying the deal. So that's a really big one there. Now, the second major category, if we move on here, is lack of support. Lack of support. Now, really what we're talking about here is family, lack of family support. It's one of the big ones, and it's really, really common, especially with people who don't have an entrepreneurial family. So, there are a few routes that we can take here. So let's decide which one fits best for you and really how to address this. So first thing is the prove them wrong theory, right? Now, this is where you take their doubt and their non-support as a challenge, and then they'll quickly jump on board when they see your success, when they see the checks coming in. And this was actually the case for me. Let me tell you a real quick story. When I first got started in real estate and wanted to get started in real estate, my wife was adamantly against it. She grew up with a family where you only owned one house, and this idea of like buying and selling real estate was totally foreign to her, and she was really against it. So what did I do? I said, you know what, I'll just prove it to her. So I'll never forget this. On the way home from the hospital when our third child was born, I said, honey, I want to show you something. This probably was bad timing. I said, I want to show you something. I drove by this house and I said, see that house? We own that. And she was like, are you kidding me? But I quickly flipped that house and I showed her the check, and it didn't take long for her to get completely on board with my business, but I had to show her success. I had to do that for her to then buy into it. And that's the strategy I took. Another thing is just recognize authentic relationships. Your net worth is a function of your network. Okay? And if you hang around broke people, you will also be broke. Jim Rohn said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So think about that. Choose your company wisely. Now, there will be many people that are waiting for your failure. And I call this group the I told you so bunch. And you want to be very wary of their presence. So a couple other things, have your spouse or partner take the training with you before they cast any doubts or judgment. That's the deal. Make that deal with them. Tell them they're not allowed to be skeptical or criticize if they've chosen not to learn and do this business themselves. And I think that's just fair enough. The other thing is don't argue. It's hard for others to see things from your perspective, right? Instead of arguing, articulate your desire in a language they will understand. Share the vision you have of your business and your life and assure them that you will be responsible for your decisions. Tell them their support means a great deal to you, okay? Now, another thing here is you're gonna really need to dig deep. Explain to your family that if you don't pursue this entrepreneurial vision, you are going to live with regret. And there's this feeling everyone can relate to of living with regret. So your non-supportive family, they'll expect you to give up after a specific time if you're not obtaining the results they might expect. So you're going to need to be strong here. You'll be questioned in the most indirect ways to see if you are still working on this venture that you told them you were going to do. So this process, it's going to test your ability to handle your emotions on all levels. So seek for that inner voice that's your true intention for committing to this entrepreneurship, right? This endeavor of flipping houses. And for them, it will be easy to pinpoint your failures. You will be criticized. Be ready for it. You'll be laughed at. You'll be compared to. You'll have this moment of truth, if you will, between everyone and anyone but yourself. So this is an opportunity to really dig deep, to get to the core of the vision you have for your life and your business. Remember, you need to have a big why. If your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big enough. And I talk about that all the time. Help your family and your non-supportive family see your vision and your big why you're doing this. So the pivotal moment will help define your energy, your desire to succeed. So do not sit and wallow. If you have non-supportive family, don't sit and wallow. Take action, make it happen. Don't wait to become worthy of your dreams. You are worthy, go after them. Now, the third strategy or the third category of fear is fear of loss. Fear of loss, this is a big one. Maybe you've worked hard and saved your whole life and you worry, you'll make mistakes and lose everything you've worked hard for. Maybe you're living month to month or even week to week, and losing even a little bit of money would be a major setback. I know these fears can be very real, but here's the thing. If fear of losing money is a big one for you, then start with the least risky strategy for flipping houses, and that is wholesaling. I talked about this a minute ago. Most people associate real estate investing with, investing cash or borrowing on credit, and that's not how wholesaling works. Again, wholesaling is simply getting a good deal under contract and then assigning or flipping your contract to another investor who will then step in and buy the property, and they take on the risk, they pay for that, and they pay you a finder fee of $3,000 to $10,000 on average. It's the lowest barrier to entry in this business. You're not putting your cash into deals, and you're not borrowing money either, because again, you're not the buyer. Now, when I started, I didn't have any money or credit, so that's what I did. I did wholesaling. Then after a while, once I felt more comfortable and confident, I started doing other types of deals that did require capital, such as fix and flip and new construction. But you don't have to start there. In fact, I teach some bulletproof strategies to where if you can't find a buyer to wholesale to, you can exercise an inspection clause, back out of your contract, so you have zero risk if you do it that way. Okay, so number 4 here, our last one, the fear of one's own ability. Now, really here I'm talking about the inner game or the view we have of ourselves. It's the self-doubt that says, who are you kidding, Jerry? You'll never be financially free, or you can't be successful flipping houses. It's that self-talk, right? Now, this fear can seem very real and come from, programming from your upbringing, or maybe it's your first entrepreneurial venture, or maybe you've tried and failed at business in the past. But here's what I suggest. Do one thing every day that scares you, right? Living in our comfort zone is not the best way to live. Not doing the things that frighten you will increase the likelihood that your fears become even bigger and take over your life. Remember, everything you want is on the other side of fear, okay? It can even be something small that you choose to do. Just do something daily that scares you. Step out of your comfort zone. Work on becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable. So, while you form that habit of doing something daily that scares you, your courage grows little by little. Soon enough, the barriers that once were holding you back vanish and your potential maximizes tremendously. So making that bold decision to not let fear hold you anymore is one of the best decisions you can make to ensure your future success. It's not something that happens overnight, but taking that intentional action and running towards your fears daily and gives you that promising result in the long run. Now, everything you want in life is past your comfort zone, right? Don't let fear be the reason you lived a half-lived life. So, the only way to really eradicate these negative self-talk that we all have is to replace it with positive self-talk. And, I'm such a big believer in what we call affirmations. This is where you verbally say the thing you desire to be in the present tense. So, for example, I am financially free. I am a successful real estate investor. Do this continually and consistently, and your mind will begin to believe it, and you'll start acting as if it's true. And this has happened in my life, so I know it works. And I recommend you read the book, The Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. It outlines what he calls the 17 wealth files or mental beliefs that rich and successful people have. And it's a great book. I've read it or listened to it on audio, dozens of times. So in closing here, let me share a few more of my favorite quotes about overcoming fear. Fear is not your enemy. It's a compass pointing to the area where you need to grow. And this one I love too. Fear is nothing more than an obstacle that stands in the way of progress. In overcoming our fears, we can move forward stronger and wiser within ourselves. And so I hope you found this video and audio training really helpful. Whatever area that you're struggling with when you sense those fears setting in, that fight or flight mechanism kicking in, remember, it's when we overcome those fears that we're able to take action and really do great things in our lives. And for me personally, I want you to know that I feel like God has called me to do great things and affect a lot of people's lives, not a few, but a lot. And so by really living that vision, that dream, and the purpose God has for me, I'm able to then go out and accomplish those great things. And I believe the same for you. I don't believe God made you to be average or mediocre, but meant for you to be great and do great things. And so, again, Jerry Norton here. Thank you for your time, and thanks for joining me on this special bonus training. Get out there, overcome those fears, and flip houses with confidence. And I'll see you next time.